Hello, everyone around the world, friends around the world. How are you today? My name is Omar Diaz. Welcome, everyone, to the last episode of your favorite series called Lights, Camera, On Air. This is a series we're producing live from Showcase Media Studios here in Mexico City. And I'm so excited to welcome you. I'm very excited, but also very nervous and also very sad because today is the last episode of this first series that we are producing here at Showcase Media. So yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling kind of happy about it, but also sad about it. It's a mix of feelings because it's been quite a journey for the last 3 months. So yeah, we're very excited to have you all here joining today from a lot of so many places around the world. So yeah, just let us know in the comments. For the very first time, we're also trying this new platform, or this platform that is helping us to send this stream to YouTube and Facebook and also Twitter. So maybe you are joining us from there. So let us know in the comments where are you joining us, where are you joining us from, where are you watching us from, and yeah, just so cool to see your comments later on. So this series is called Lights, Camera, On Air. So for those of you who don't know what this series is all about, this is an attempt from us, from Showcase Media, to reach out to the people that are curious about the world of virtual events, about media productions and also broadcasting, but that don't know how or where to get started. So we are doing this by sharing some of the secrets and learnings that we've had over the last months, over the last years, and trying to help to those people, businesses and organizations that are trying to transition from in-person events to virtual events or hybrid events. So we've been talking about all these fields of how to create videos, storytelling, until like how to produce virtual events at home, at your studio. And for this episode, we have the topic of creating episodic series. So welcome everyone. So yes, episode 10, as I'm saying, is the last episode of this series that we're creating. So today we're going to be talking about how episodic content can grow your brand. And just to give some context, big brands like maybe you've heard of Wistia or MailChimp or Patagonia, they have been looking for ways to build brand affinity by creating episodic series that allow to build a connection with their audiences. So maybe probably you have seen so many series on YouTube or even Netflix or even Spotify, maybe some podcast series. So this has been a very common trend in the last year, because these big companies are trying to do something different in a way to build a connection with their audiences. So today we're going to be talking about how series can actually help you and your business or your brand or your startup build a connection with your audience. So I really hope this episode is going to be very useful for you. So before going in the episode, I just want to say hello to the people that are helping me and here to make this series happen, to make this episode happen, to make all this that you are seeing happen. So first of all, I would just like to introduce myself for those of you that still don't know who I am. My name is Omar Diaz. I am the founder and head of production of Showcase Media. We are a beauty production company based in Mexico City. We have our studio here in Mexico City, but we're also working with clients around the world. So I'm also your host for this show. And yeah, I'm really happy to welcome you all. We also have behind the screen, or behind the camera, we have Jorge. Jorge, he is the creative director at Showcase Media, and he's also helping us with master control, helping us make this stream happen. So yeah, how are you, Jorge?
I am fine.
Fine. How are you feeling? Sad, happy about this episode finishing?
I'm happy and sad at the same time.
Yes, me too. I understand. So yeah. Also, I would like to introduce you to, again, two of great people that have been working with us, not even here at the studio. They have been working with us remotely from the north of Mexico. Their names are Dani and Ana Pau. They are here. You can see them on screen. Say hello. To bring this series, let's say, come to life across our social media network with all this marketing plan, the design of the show. So yes, they have been a huge asset for us, helping us with first like creating the brand identity of the show and also helping us spread the word through our social media. So they are also helping us with building a community on YouTube. So if you are watching us from YouTube, just make sure to write your questions, write your comments, and Dani and Ana Pau will also send them over to us for the, let's say, questions, for the question segment at the end of the episode. All right. So yes, if you are new to this show, so that you know, we are already on episode 10. This is the last episode. So we have 9 previous episodes where we are covering topics from creating content, getting better at video editing, storytelling, how to, what's the business side of creativity. So we have a lot of interesting topics that we believe could be very interesting for you. So if you haven't watched them all before, here's a reminder. You can see that on our YouTube page, Showcaser Media, you can find them available on demand. So you can watch them maybe on the flight, or like, I don't know, whatever you are at home, you can just watch them. It's really great content. There is a lot of gold in those episodes that it's going to be very useful for you. So yes, subscribe to Showcaser Media YouTube channel if you haven't done it already. And yes, let's just keep moving on, because today's special guest, I'm very excited because we're going to be talking about, as I already told you, we're going to be talking about episodic series, and we have a very special guest. His name is Leonard Müller. He is the current president of AIESEC in the Netherlands. And what's very interesting from him, besides he's the president of an NGO in the Netherlands, he was the creator of the AIESEC podcast series. So it's been a very successful podcast that is already on its 3rd edition, and we're going to be talking to the creator of that great idea. But that's going to come at some point in the near future of this episode. First, we have amazing segments ready, prepared for you. So let's get to it. The first thing that we're going to be showing to you today is we are creating this documentary called Retrospective that is, let's say, we split the documentary of the story of Showcaser Media in 10 chapters. So chapter 10, the last chapter of the episode, is called Consistency. Yes, and if you haven't seen the episodes before, you can find them both on Facebook, Showcaser Media. There's the series available there, or you can also watch them on Instagram. You can see them there. It's they're on IGTV, so just go watch them. We are telling the story of the origins of Showcaser Media from the beginning until right now. So today's chapter is called Consistency, and it's going to be we're going to be covering how we managed to build this great episodic video series. All right. So without further ado, Jorge, you tell me when you're ready, so we can just show you the last chapter of Retrospective called Consistency. I really hope that you enjoy it. Michael Korda states that one way to keep momentum going is to have constantly greater goals. Having successfully produced our first virtual event at Showcase Media Studios, we felt the time was right to try something new, to challenge ourselves and put our creativity and the studio capabilities to the test. How? By producing and hosting our first ever original live episodic series. The best way to execute a brand affinity marketing strategy is with long-form video series. This is because episodic content gives you the ability to re-engage with your viewers and keep them coming back for more. Big brands like Wistia and MailChimp understand this. They created binge-worthy video series like Bandwagon and Second Act, two series that have inspired us to get immersed into this trend of episodic live shows. Lights Camera On Air was Showcaser Media's first attempt to start positioning itself as a production company that cares about helping and educating businesses and organizations as they embrace the world of virtual events, broadcasting, and media productions. Now, if there is one thing Jorge and I learned throughout these years, is that people want to be entertained as they learn. For this project to succeed, we knew we had to bring in the right elements that could allow us to offer the best quality to our audience. From Danny and Ana Pau, who've made a huge contribution with the marketing of the series across social networks. Pablo, who has constantly helped us improve and excel the audio quality of the show. The Ukrainian music duo Drumpet, whose talent has made us all move our feet with their performances. And our special guests, who have certainly inspired the audience with their extraordinary stories and experiences. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to your new favorite series called Lights, Camera, On Air. So, that was... Sorry, just something different just happened. 2016.
¿Grabando?
Consistency has been one of the major keys in the evolution and success of Showcaser Media. Consistency brings smoothness and clarity to the path leading to the goal. Only when there is consistency, there is no contradiction. Retrospective has helped us take a closer look into the origins of Showcaser Media, our failures and successes. But it also makes us very excited about a future that is yet to be written. So yes, that's the end of Retrospective. We created this documentary with the stories of Showcaser Media, so we really hope that you enjoyed it. So now let's move to the next segment of this episode, which is the education segment. We're trying to provide some knowledge out of the experience that we've gained by creating this episodic series. So yes, in this Let's Get Hacky section, we're going to be talking specifically about creating episodic video content. So episodic content, just to give you some context or like some definition, is creating sequential, engaging video content that is part of a series centered around a certain theme or topic. So similar to a series that you have been maybe watched, that you've watched previously on either Netflix or YouTube, or maybe a podcast series in this case on Spotify or Apple Music. What CMOs and CEOs are doing right now is that instead of worrying about what to blog about on social media or what to post on social media, they are turning their heads into creating episodic content so that they can build a stronger connection with their audiences. So this is what we are doing right now here at Showcaser Media. We are trying to create a episodic series. We're trying to create an audience for ourselves, and this is what we are aiming to do by creating this series. All right. So today's just maybe kind of a recommendation is that stop creating content and start creating shows. So that's why today the 5 hacks that we're going to be giving to you is how to create episodic video content. All right. So the first hack is you have to come up with a concept for a show. So first define what is the format that you would like to have, the concept. So for this we have maybe the options of you want to create a podcast talk show, or maybe a fireside chat with some of your guests, panel discussions, or behind the scenes, or a documentary. So if you notice, here at Showcasing Media, we're trying to adopt some of those different concepts or formats for our episodes. Now, it's very important that we can talk about the micro content plan. So micro content is something that you can use out of your episodes that you are creating for future use. So that's a micro content concept. So you can just create short segments of your episodes, or you can just create a recap of your episode, and then you can just use them either for a podcast or maybe for a blog post. So these are some of the benefits that creating a series can give you. You can use them for future content. So start by planning the micro content within each episode, and then, yes, as I was saying, your micro content is a piece of content that can be usable in its many forms later on. Now, we go into the production segment or section, which is film the episode. So, of course, you want to demand a certain level of quality, because if we are going to use this content in the future for like maybe a blog post or a podcast, then the production needs to be really, really good. So maybe you cannot afford like that big production, but always start with the best quality that you can afford, right? Try to, if you're going to ask for people's attentions, then definitely you want to invest on like the best quality that you can afford at the moment. Now, distribute and track is also very important. Once the episode has finished, you can segment into different micro content pieces, as I was saying, and then you can track how these pieces of content perform across different channels on social media. Good? So that's point number 4. And the last point, the last hack that we have for you is analyze, rinse, and repeat. So analyze the results that this micro content is generating for you and your brand. In terms of engagement, are people attracted to what you're producing, the traffic that you are generating, and also how many leads are you generating after every episode. So just a short thing that we're doing right now by streaming through different platforms, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, is we're trying to get to expand to different social media channels and see how these perform on them all, right? So those are the 5 hacks on why we recommend you should embrace the world of creating video episodic series. And now, moving to the next segment, we have the music break with Drumpet. This is a music duo, the Ukrainian music duo that I told you about in the documentary. They have been episode after episode rocking the house for us with their amazing talent. So yes, their names are Julia and Alex. They are from Ukraine, and they are here to just put some tone and some mood into the episode. So I really hope that you enjoy it. So Jorge, whenever you're ready, we can just go to the music break section.
I'm a scat man.
So how was that, my friends? How was that amazing performance from Trumpet? Definitely huge talent. Trumpet has been amazing asset for this episode. Episode after episode, they have been bringing the best performances that we could have ever imagined. So wait for it, because at the end of the episode, we have the last segment with Trumpet, so you want to stay tuned. Also because for the next segment, which is my favorite segment of every episode, I'm bringing in every week by week, I'm bringing in a special guest or maybe special guests to the episode, because yes, we've had episodes with more than one guest. But for this episode, as I was telling earlier, I have a very amazing special guest. His name is Leonard Müller. He is currently the national president of AIESEC in the Netherlands, but I was also saying that he was also the creator of the AIESEC podcast series, which has been very successful around the world. So just to give you some random facts about himself, he is originally from Germany, but now he's living in the Netherlands because he is the president of AIESEC in the Netherlands. Surprisingly enough, he has lived in South America 3 times. First, he lived 8 months in Bolivia, 8 weeks in Colombia, and 6 months in Argentina. When I asked him, hey, is it fine if we just do the episode on Spanish? He said, yes, it would be great, but unfortunately we can't. But yes, he's very proficient in Spanish, so I'm actually surprised about it. And also, Lenny and me, we share this passion about football. So yes, I'm also very passionate about football, but he's also very passionate about his hometown, Cologne. So I don't want to take more of the time. Let me just check if Lenny is here. So Lenny, can you hear me? How are you today? It's so good to
Yes,
to see
I
you.
can. Good afternoon, good morning,
Good
to
morning.
Mexico.
Oh, good. So yes, how are you today? How's everything? It's good to see you again.
I'm good. I'm excited for holidays. 3 days more of work until we can finally go into well-deserved Christmas holidays.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's time to take some time off after a long and tough year, I guess, for all of us. So very excited for holidays, but no, overall doing quite well. Just one thing I need to clarify here, not that people will text me later, but I do speak Spanish, but I'm not ready for a full episode in Spanish.
I mean, we can always try. It's fine. But okay, so why don't you tell me a bit of what you're doing currently? I have this picture of you speaking in front of an audience, so maybe people would like to know more about what you're currently doing, just for some context.
Sure. I'm the current president of AIESEC in the Netherlands. So those who do not really know a lot about AIESEC yet, I'm leading the national office of AIESEC in the Netherlands, so of our branch here in the Netherlands. But I've been part of AIESEC now. It's my 4th year, so for some time already. And I'm currently based here in The Hague in Amsterdam. In The Hague in Amsterdam, my first mistake. In The Hague, the Netherlands, of course, and not in Amsterdam. I used to live in Amsterdam because we moved our office just this year, so it's our first year in The Hague, which is a beautiful, cute city, and I really like it here.
Yes, I can even see it's still sunlight there, like not.
No, it's not sunlight. It looks like it, but it's not sunlight. It's a very cloudy day here in the Netherlands, so very typical Dutch weather.
Well, there's some good natural light for sure. All right, so I was just telling the audience that I mean, you've been very. I mean, one of the ideas that you got out of your AIESEC experience was coming up with a podcast series that just started, let's say, locally or like in the Netherlands. So here are some pictures of some of the episodes that you've done. But this podcast series has been very successful. That it's already in its third edition. So right now, so this talks about how a good idea that started a few years ago. And I will ask you more about how everything started. But it's really curious to see how a small idea can turn into something really huge. Now it's become a global project, and I'm a huge fan of like every episode. So I just want to show the audience. I have this video that you sent me about the teaser of the first season. So this was just the first idea, and you sent me this video. So I just want to show it to the audience, and then we can just talk more about it in the next minutes, right? So
Sure.
here's the slide, and let's play.
Welcome to the Live the Experience podcast.
So how was that? I think that was a very good way to show people that there's this podcast coming in and that you should be ready and excited about it. I think it's a very nice video. So I wanna start the conversation with. So as we've been talking about during this episode, we're talking about creating episodic content. So whether it's video content or podcast series. So in this case, the AIESEC podcast, which, as I was mentioning, it's already in its third edition. So I would like because I know there's a lot of people wondering having this crazy of the idea of creating their own podcast. So what can you tell me about where did the idea come from, and how did you make that happen?
Sure. So I guess like any creative idea or people who are creative out there, ideas like this, they sometimes just come by accident. And I think that also happened a little bit with me. The reason why at the end I ended up doing a podcast was because my very first position in AIESEC was being part of the outgoing global volunteer team. So I was part of a team that was sending young students abroad all around the world to do a 6 to 8 week volunteer project from the Netherlands. And back then I was a lot into those inspirational speakers who would be very famous on YouTube, like Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, Jay Shetty, a lot of those famous people who have like millions of followers. And I've watched them a lot. I procrastinated a lot my studies by watching their videos, and I felt good about it. But at some point I started to feel a bit, they already have 1 million followers. They're already super famous. They have a lot of experience. They're CEOs. They have this experience already. So obviously they have a lot to talk about, but yet it seems so far away. Because they are so famous and they have so much money and so much success. But while I was sending those young people abroad on volunteer projects, they had the most inspirational stories I've heard in my life. When they were abroad, getting to know another culture, a culture that they've never encountered before as a Dutch student, for example, in the Netherlands. And some of them always came back with those inspiring stories that I was thinking, wow, that is just a person like I am. He's 22 years old. He's studying the same I do. And he goes for 6 weeks to Tanzania and he found his own NGO, right? Which is a super inspiring story. And I was thinking, more young people should know about this. More young people should know that you do not need to have 1 million followers on Instagram and be famous already or successful in order to be inspiring, in order to have some kind of impact. And then the next step was rather easy, I guess, or the next thought that I had was, we don't have an AIESEC podcast yet. AIESEC globally, and we are a global brand, present in more than 110 countries and territories, but we don't have a podcast yet. And I was also listening to a lot of podcasts myself. And for me, podcast is a medium that offers a great way to actually have a proper conversation with someone, dive deep into a topic. And I thought, wow, I have a match here, right? We have inspiring stories of young people, and we don't have a podcast yet. So why don't we just start it? I really just wanted to have a conversation with those young people. Some of them have been friends of mine, and talk about their experience and what kind of impact they had and how they developed their leadership while going abroad. And then podcast was really the medium to have a 20-30 minute conversation that, for example, video, blog, or Instagram or any other platform doesn't really offer, right? Do you watch a 30-minute video? You need to pay more attention. But everyone can listen to a 20-minute podcast on their bike, doing the dishes, doing your laundry. There's a lot of opportunities for that.
Yes, and right now I'm just displaying some of the pictures that you sent me of the setup that you have, and sometimes people, what stops people from like really going further into creating a podcast is, oh, I don't have the resources, I don't have the equipment, I don't have the studio. But as you can see in the picture, I mean, of course, you need you need to invest in some quality. It doesn't need to be the best production and the top quality, like very super expensive quality equipment. But all you need, as we can see, is just a couple of microphones connected to a computer at a table, and really just start a conversation with someone. And of course, we're gonna jump later into more like technicalities, but again, it's all about like initiative, having the idea, coming up with the concept, and just going for it, diving in. So then, what does it take to create a podcast? I have this question for you. What does it take? If you could give me a breakdown on what do you require to have?
Yeah, so I think there's like any creative project that you do, or any creative field that you would like to put something out there. It's really about two things. On the one hand, you got to be creative, right? And by far myself, I would have not called myself before creating the podcast as a very creative person. So I truly believe that it is something that you can learn. And if you really want to be creative, you'll find a way to be creative. I was a way more rational, direct, and this type of guy before I was doing the podcast. And not really a lot of creativity always involved, and also in my studies, for example. So I think that's the first part. Like, if you find something that you like, if you find something that you like to talk about, if we stay with the topic of the podcast, you already have the first step. I think that's the most important thing. That's what it takes to do a podcast. You gotta talk about something that you like and that you're curious about yourself. And for me, that meant like listening and learning more about those inspiring stories by young people who went abroad to develop their leadership. I was very curious myself, and I was very interested in that myself. Now, the second part then of what it takes to create a podcast. Now, again, I can split up the second part into two things. Mm-hmm. It's a very technical part, of course, like you have to figure out the technology, like, are you going to do it virtual? Totally possible these days. Like COVID has shown us that we can do so much more virtual than we might actually believe we can. Are you going to do it in person? Do you need two mics, a good mic or one good mic? What is going to the platform? How are you going to edit it? And all of this technological part, I had no idea how to do it, but the internet is your best friend. And I simply Googled and went on YouTube, and for every single step of the technical part, there have already been hundreds of people who figured that out before me. And I just had to follow a YouTube tutorial to learn how to properly edit a podcast and how to properly upload it. So I think also there, even if you're not a technical person, it's not a problem at all. You can still bring out your own podcast because hundreds of people figured that out before you, and they put it on YouTube and step by step explain it to you. And then, of course, then there's a very important part, which is the actual hosting part. And being able to have a conversation with your guest, an interesting, a challenging conversation that lets the listener really, capture their attention and let them stay with the podcast for 20 to 30 minutes. And I think for that, there's multiple ways to go. And I'm sure I think we'll go into that in later as well. It really depends on the type of podcast you run. Is it just a very casual conversation with two friends? Sit down, make a few bullet points, what you want to talk about, and then just let the conversation go on. That's a beautiful thing of a podcast. If it's also, by the way, can also be for a brand or for just a friends, two friends talking. That you can just let the conversation go, and it's an authentic conversation. And there's a lot of famous podcasts out there who are successful with that. Also, the very scripted podcast where you have a very strict flow with 8, 9, 10 questions that you're going to ask your guests, and you take them through a specific topic. So then I think it really depends on what type of podcast you run and how you prepare for it, and how you then onboard your guests to have the show together.
I really love that, and believe me, we are taking notes right here because for us in Showcaser Media, this is a new area that we're going to be exploring in 2021. We want to start producing podcasts here at the studio, but yeah, definitely this is a very good starting point. And you were mentioning something very important, which is internet is your best friend, and that's what people are seeing right now, coming up with the studio, coming up with the series. It all comes from inspiration that we found on the internet. And yes, we knew that would be a good idea to have. We didn't know anything at the moment how to get started. So we just, made internet our best friend, went to look for some inspiration, some resources, made the right investment on equipment, and here we are. So yes, I think that's a very, very great point that you covered. And also the preparation for an episode. So you were talking about how do you prepare onboard your guest speakers? And for us, it happens the same. This is a very good example. We've been preparing this episode for the last couple of weeks. It just doesn't happen overnight. So
it doesn't. Yeah.
I think for people to know more about like preparation, how do you prepare for one single episode? So if you can be specific about how you onboard your guests, the technical equipment. So maybe you can give some more information on that.
Yeah, like I mentioned in my reply just before that, it really depends on the type of podcast you run. And I can use as a good example the 2 podcast seasons that we run with AIESEC globally. The first season was called #Live the Experience, and it was really about unique stories. This was my first dream to bring those stories out there, and I still believe that's one of the most beautiful things to talk about in a podcast, because it can be so inspirational for us young people. And if you want to have this type of show, where you just want to bring out unique stories of people that are inspiring, for example, every episode is different. Every episode is slightly different, and every story is unique, right? And that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
And then if you find your guest, and how I, for example, started to start with friends, I would have a casual conversation and see how was your experience when you went abroad, and then we would just talk about the experience, some bullet points. So what are the experiences we should really touch upon in the episode that were very shaping their experience a lot abroad as well. And that's really about a unique story, right? So then every episode would start like this. I would have a casual conversation with the person to kind of figure out what exactly should we talk about? What made your experience so special, so inspiring? Now, and in the second season, which was called #Leadership is Also About, which kind of came along right when the first lockdown happened because of COVID in this, at the beginning of this year, around March, together with Radesh, who was back then in charge of digital marketing in AIESEC International, we had the idea to bring out a podcast about leadership. And that leadership is about so many more things than we might have in our perceptions. But then we set very concrete topics per episode. We would talk about our 4 leadership qualities. What does it take to be self-aware? Why is it important to have a skill like empowering others? What does it take to lead an organization through a pandemic, through a crisis? And then you have a very concrete topic for the episode that you want to cover. And we would start to draft an episode flow with like 9 to 10 questions that are all around this topic. So then it's not a little bit more like this freestyle, let's just go with the story and with the conversation. but indeed a little bit more structured and planned out episodes.
Yeah.
And then like then the last step, the last step before I always started was to have an onboarding with my guest, right? And to just be aligned. What do we want to talk about? But the beauty about the podcast is as well that leaves some room to improvise. Sometimes I would not stick exactly to my script, but if I, again, coming back to the idea that I should be interested in that topic as well. If the guest would reply to a question in a certain way, and in my head it popped up, oh wow, but now I would be interested in that. I just asked that because I thought, okay, if people listen to the podcast, they probably have similar interests like I do. So let's get off the script and do the best for the episode, if we can call it that way.
I love that, definitely. And as you were describing your process for like one episode, for us it works exactly the same way. At least for this season, and we try to make this series as intentional as possible. We try to build it from scratch, the topic, the themes that we wanted to cover. And then once we had that, then it was about like bringing in the speakers, bringing in the special guests, and then preparing every episode has been quite a journey for every single one of the episodes. So yes, you were saying even for a single episode, you need to build the right structure so that the flow is consistent, but it also makes sense for the audience. So yes, we had a couple of we had some questions that we discovered previously. We prepared together, and then it's easier for us to just go through the flow. I think it all comes down to preparation is key, definitely.
Totally.
And the more you prepare for one episode, the more time that you give into that episode, then the execution is going to be better for sure. So that's very good. And yes, so podcasts have been growing in popularity over the last year, and it's definitely going to be really super relevant for the future. So I would like to ask you, based on your experience creating podcasts, what would be an ideal structure for a podcast in 2021? So people maybe want to start the new year with the right foot.
Yeah, so podcasts have been popular for longer than a year already, and for many years it has been increasing in popularity month by month. So I think I don't have that much experience, right? I've run around 20 episodes or almost 30 episodes
That's a lot.
of the podcast. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but let me get to the point, because especially in podcasts, maybe for podcasts, that's actually not that much.
Okay.
If you wanna grow a podcast, because there are so many out there, but it is really difficult to grow podcasts, since this whole this whole environment of Spotify and Apple Podcasts are not that developed yet. So it really does take some time. But if we think about an ideal structure of the podcast, first of all, I think there's no ideal structure for podcast. That makes a podcast so unique that everyone can bring their own touch, and it's a very authentic medium. If it's for a brand, or if it's a personal podcast between friends, it's a very authentic medium to kind of bring across a message for whatever message that might be. It needs to be catchy in some way, right? You gotta, yeah, there it happens. What we talked about, the camera just shut off because the battery's empty.
It's fine. You can just change the battery. It happens.
Now we're back.
There you are.
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. We knew this would happen, so it's fine.
What I was saying, right, is that the podcast, there needs to be a catch. It's got to be a topic that people are interested in, or that, first of all, you're interested in. But if you're interested in it, I'm very sure there are more people out there who are interested in that. It's got to be entertaining in some way. People got to also leave the podcast or enjoy the podcast for something fun. But I think the absolute key for podcast is consistency. It got to be consistent. People, you want to have people come back maybe week by week or month by month. And if there's a break of a week, and if it's not consistent, you might lose a couple of people because they forgot about it. every one of us knows how much we see on social media every day and how difficult it is to actually capture someone's attention for a longer time. So you got to be consistent with it, and both in the actual episode and what you talk about, and then episode by episode, but also as simple as having an episode, a weekly episode, and do not miss a week because you feel like, okay, it's just 1 week. No, you might lose some people who then after in the span of 2 weeks forget about it. And then I guess but that's really my personal opinion, right? My personal opinion is that if we talk about actual topics for podcasts, there's already enough business and personal development podcasts out there. Like a lot of people do that. So you also got to find your niche, something that not that many people talk about. And again, my personal opinion here, there's so much room for young people to be inspiring. There's so many problems in this world that can be solved by our generation, or should be tackled by our generation, maybe even more than previous generations, like climate change, like inequality, mental health within our generation, or younger generations even. So I also feel like that those are some niches where we can still have a lot of room to put out good content, to have impact, and to have a positive impact in this world.
Yes, I definitely connect with this answer. And again, for us here with this series, we're trying to make it like something that is unique for us, something that we are adding our own touch. And we also are aware that the audience can either like what we're doing or could not, and that's totally fine. Sometimes, yes, this is something that can happen. You have to deal with it. It's fine, as long as you are just doing something that you really love and it's something that you're very passionate about. The audience will come eventually. The right audience, the right eyeballs will come to you, or the right ears in this case. So yeah, also you were saying like entertaining. In the documentary, I was saying something around the lines of people want to be entertained as they learn. Yes, so one thing that we have been doing here with this series specifically is we're trying to have an episode that contains different elements, whether it's a documentary section, whether it's a special guest, whether it's a music break, like different elements that could potentially entertain people. And just let them know that, hey, we're trying to do something kind of like a TV show that is going to keep you, yes, for over maybe an hour of your time, but it's going to just be good for you. At least it's going to be an hour well spent. So yes, you want to combine those elements for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk marketing now, and I think we both have that area of experience. So how do you position a podcast? So I think people are curious about, okay, I have my podcast, and how do I just put it out there? So from your experience, what are the essential requirements to get your podcast out there?
Consistency. That's all I can say. You got to have a good topic, a good podcast. You got to be funny, entertaining, catchy, serious. I don't know, whatever. It's got to be good, and there needs to be consistency. The unique thing about podcasts, if we compare to all other mediums like a video on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, blogs, so on a website, it's super difficult to go viral with a podcast and to put like a 20 to 30 minute audio episode. It's just audio, right? It's not video. Out there and be viral within a week, like we have videos who get millions of clicks within a week, or something like that. That's because those platforms like a podcast, first of all, it's because of the medium and the way we consume podcasts, I guess, these days. But also because those platforms, I guess the top two platforms right now who have the most listeners are Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Are not that as developed as the music part, for example. The algorithm for music, I think now Spotify has been investing a lot of money in the past years to actually also create a proper platform for podcast hosting. And I remember when I started to listen podcasts, it looked very different than it does today already. So there's a lot of money is being put in there. but still it's not as developed as the whole music platform yet and environment. So it's quite difficult to get out there very fast and become viral. So I think the first thing that's nice, start with your friends. Always start with your friends and word of mouth. If you put out a podcast there and your friends share it to friends, and it kind of catches fire, and more and more people will listen to it, you'll slowly but steady grow your audience. But it takes a long time. And we have been successful always at the launch. First 2 seasons, when we launched the first and the second season, I was lucky because AIESEC has around 1 million followers on Facebook and thousands of followers on Instagram. So right away, there was a big audience to reach out to. So on launch day, we would always have the peak of our listeners, our monthly or daily listeners, but it would always drop after that, which is normal because not everyone will continue every single week to listen. So then you at some point get to this point where you have weekly listeners coming back and back, and this is the audience you want to grow. But this takes a lot of time. And a lot of podcasts, they take a year or 2 years until they got really started to get big, until it was like the snowball system, right? That the bigger the snowball, the faster it rolls, the more people listen to it. So I think there's still podcasts super difficult to grow, but beautiful medium, but without consistency, you'll not manage to grow a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this is what stops a lot of people, because they put their first podcast. And I know a lot of cases out there that, even from close friends of mine, that they just released with a lot of excitement, they made this a lot of huge, a lot of posts on social media. Hey, my first episode, my first podcast is coming out very soon. Then the first one comes, probably doesn't get as many clicks as these people are expecting. And then they just stop doing it. So it's, as you were saying, consistency is key. And also, you gotta be patient as well into, hey, you're trying to build an audience. You're not trying to get results, like in short-term results, but make it a long-term plan. And believe me, it's actually gonna work at some point.
Yeah.
So I just wanna, if there's some questions from the audience, you can just write them on YouTube. There we have Anna Pau. She's just getting the questions for you, and then she's gonna send them over. But again, we have Lenny right here with us. So if you wanna ask something very specific, this is the moment for you. Because right now we are heading to the last question that we prepared for you. And this is more in the lines of, what would be your advice to someone who is curious about creating a podcast for the very first time? And I mean, you were saying before you start with the idea, but what would be more like your personal piece of advice to someone out there, including myself, which probably is something we're going to start doing next year?
Well, I think at least that was how I approached it, and why I really enjoyed doing the podcast, and why I wanted to really do it then was because I talked about something that I'm passionate about, that I like, that I enjoy doing, but also learn from it myself. Like, still my favorite is the first season, because I talk with such inspiring young people about their stories abroad, about when they went abroad and experienced a different culture and what it really did with them. Like, I was so inspired myself, and I was very passionate about that. And I think you got to find something that you really like and that you like to talk about, because the audience will know. The better host you can be, actually, because the better questions you can ask, the better conversation you can actually have with your guest, if you want to do it with a guest, because then a podcast is really about being authentic to me. It's this medium that can offer you a very personal perspective. People might listen to it when they are about to sleep, when they are about to relax on their bike. A lot of different ways to listen to it, but they have their headphones in and they only listen to you. And I think that offers a way to be very authentic and to really show who you really are without having a lot of fake, like trying to build a fake picture around it. And I think for that, the most important part is that you find that you do a podcast about something that you like, that you're passionate about, that you're curious about yourself. And I'm sure then the rest will work out pretty well. Since I said there's so many people out there who already figured it out, and there's so many easy steps to follow to make it a nice podcast. And then you got to have some endurance, some stamina, because podcast takes a long time to grow. And I think we never can really expect instant success, not even with video, only if you go viral. But how many people go viral? If we compare to how many people try to put a video out there, it's like a tiny percentage of people who actually manage to go viral. So then you really got to have some stamina, and your motivation should be like you genuinely enjoy having this conversation with someone. And then it will also not be too difficult to run the podcast for a longer time. Yeah, I would say that's it.
That's brilliant. So definitely, we're gonna take that advice into consideration here at Showcase Media, because we're gonna start exploring this podcast environment in the near future. So we'll see how that goes. But definitely, this is huge. This episode has been amazing in terms of the content that you provided to a lot of us. It doesn't seem there's questions from the audience, but I would just like to know what podcast are you listening to right now? What podcast, and then what's so good about it? So maybe you just want to give some recommendation out there for the audience.
Yeah, so in the past, I listened to a lot of, when I was in charge of marketing last year in the national office here in the Netherlands, I listened to a lot of marketing podcasts, of course, because I like to educate myself more, listen to experts. Now I completely got away from those personal development, business type of podcasts, because podcasts really became a way of relaxing for me. I listen to a podcast in moments I want to relax, or on the bike when I'm going to the office. And right now I'm only listening to German podcasts, so probably doesn't make a lot of sense to share them right now, the names, but all of them are basically 2 or 3 friends having a conversation about very random topics. But they're fun, they're energetic, they talk about daily topics that are happening in Germany, for example. But it's sometimes it's comedians or friends just having a conversation. But I also, and then maybe the second one, actually, I do listen to some English podcasts. I like to listen to news podcasts. Yes. Both my parents are journalists, and my mom works in daily journalism. But radio and static TV, you have to tune in to watch it. What I like about podcasts so much, I decide when I want to listen to the news. So The Economist, for example, has a great podcast, and then I listen to some German news podcasts as well. But whenever I get up, I can listen to it. I don't have to have the exact time when I need to listen to it. So I would say it's a combination of those two, like some news podcasts as well as some very casual, funny, entertaining people just having a nice conversation.
That's great. That's great. So thank you very much for that. And also just a reminder for the audience, if you haven't watched this AIESEC, or watched or heard this AIESEC podcast series, definitely recommend for inspiration on people that have gone on exchange, season number 1, or more relevant topics on leadership, season number 2. And right now, season number 3, which just launched probably, I think, last month, if I recall, is more about the how young people should embrace the future. Understanding the context that we are in right now. So definitely recommend those episodes. Lenny, this has been great content for sure. Definitely. Thank you very much for spending this time with us. It's definitely a lot of great conversation. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Leonard Müller. He's the president of AIESEC in the Netherlands. If you want to find him on LinkedIn or Instagram, you can just type his name and you're going to find him for sure. Lenny, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, and great show. I was excited to be part of the last episode of season 1. I hope there will be a season 2 coming. Keep up the good work, and also good luck with the podcast you want to start.
Oh my God, thank you very much. I'll definitely reach out to you for more inspiration.
Please do so. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lenny. So
have a great day, guys. Bye bye.
That's been really great conversation. Definitely one of my favorite episodes so far. So just moving to the last segment of this episode, we're just gonna go to the takeaways. Yes, just some takeaways from this episode. So the first one comes again from the documentary Uh, Here it is. So we're talking today about consistency, right? So consistency is one of the keys, of the major keys in the evolution and success of every startup, of every idea, of everything in general. Even for like we're talking about podcasts, so consistency is also key. So you need to be patient, you need to be consistent, and you need to be like really, really passionate about what you're doing. And this is gonna be a huge, major key for the future. The second point is the best way to execute a brand affinity marketing strategy, in our opinion, is with long-form video series. So we are trying this new approach of creating video episodic series. Definitely, this is not going to be the last one. This project has allowed us to have more inspiration for future projects, so definitely stay tuned for those. But again, this is our recommendation for you. If you need some help, if you need some support, we are here for you. We can actually help you bring that dream reality. And yes, so stop creating content. I think right now, if you wanna definitely avoid the huge noise that it's around every area, like all over the place in social media, digital channels, you want to start creating shows. And this has been actually very helpful for us at Showcasing Media because it's allowed us to grow our audience, but also many people have reached out to say, hey, I would like to work with you. I have this crazy idea of this virtual event, or I would like to create a video series like yours. So I want to get started with, so definitely something that you want to start doing in the future. Also, we will be talking about podcasts. So podcasts help brands tell their stories, share their values, and build deeper connection with their audiences. So as Lenny was mentioning, definitely it, contrary to a video series, I think there's like something about listening to podcasts because it helps you build an even better connection with what the conversation is telling you. So podcast is something that we are going to start exploring because we understand the value that it's generating and how it's going to help us as a company to keep building a relationship with our audience. And an ideal structure for your upcoming podcast should include, based on the conversation with Lenny, definitely a good catch. So you want to do something that's going to keep people on the hook. It has to be entertaining. So try to adapt or try to embed some elements to your episode. Do something fun, of course, because I think that's also going to give a different touch to the episode. And consistency, something that you want to start doing. If you want to do it, it definitely should be something for the long term. So with this, we reach the end of Lights, Camera, On Air, the first ever episodic live show here at the studio in Showcaser Media in Mexico City. We are so excited. This was a huge dream for us, Jorge and I, back in August when we started, let's say, talking about this idea. It's a dream come true. We made it happen. We can't believe it's already the episode number 10. There's been a lot of growth, a lot of innovation. We've been doing a lot of mistakes, but also we've made sure that episode after episode we are trying to do something new to try to provide this knowledge and this experience to our viewers. So really, really hope that you like this episode. Stay tuned because there's going to be a lot of surprises for 2021. And yeah, I just want to really thank you for attending, for being here for this episode. Also want to thank Jorge, who has been huge support since episode number 1, but also since before we started working on this. So Jorge, huge shout out to you. Definitely amazing, great work. And also to Danny and Ana Pau that have been also huge support for us into creating the branding of the show, putting ourselves, this show and the content out there in every social media. So what you see, the logo, everything it was because of them. So definitely amazing, amazing talent helping us remotely from the north of Mexico in Monterrey. So definitely a huge thank you. And also special thanks to all my guests from episode number 1 till episode number 10. Thank you for showcasing me your time and our audience. Definitely a huge contribution and a lot of inspiration from your stories and your experiences. Last but not least, also my brother Pablo, who has been a huge support, as I was mentioning in the documentary, with helping us with audio, so microphones. We are definitely, all this audio setup has been because of him. And last but not least, to Drumpet, Julia, Samokina, and Alex have been also like giving us their time with their talent, with these amazing performances. So huge shout out to Drumpet who made this happen. So just to finish this episode, I just want to play the last performance from Drumpet. So you want to follow them on Instagram, definitely. And if you want to reach out, just you know where to find them. So with this, thank you very much. We close a very interesting part of the year for us at Showcasing Media. It's been a year of huge growth, a lot of innovation. And we'll see you very soon, 2021. We are ready when you are ready. So take care and see you very, very soon.